Hi everyone. Welcome back to our channel English Rise. This channel was created to help you improve your English listening and speaking skills through calm, deep, and meaningful storytelling. If this type of content helps you practice English and reflect at the same time, consider subscribing to the channel. Now take a breath, and let's begin. We live in a world that talks a lot about comfort, a world that avoids pain, a world that escapes silence, a world that runs from discomfort. And yet, this same world wonders why people feel anxious, lost, fragile, and mentally exhausted. Today's story is about mental strength. Not the loud kind, not the aggressive kind, but the quiet strength that allows you to stand firm when everything around you feels weak. Part 1. What a weak world really means. A weak world does not mean weak people. It means a world that constantly removes resistance. A world that offers shortcuts instead of growth. A world that replaces effort with convenience. Everything is faster. Everything is easier. Everything is more comfortable. But the human mind was not built for constant comfort. It was built to adapt, to struggle, to overcome. When resistance disappears, the mind does not become happier. It becomes restless. This is why so many people feel overwhelmed even when life looks easy from the outside. Part 2. Why comfort makes the mind fragile. Comfort feels good in the moment, but comfort weakens the mind over time. When you avoid difficulty, your tolerance for discomfort shrinks. Small problems start to feel big. Minor stress feels unbearable. The mind becomes sensitive, reactive, easily shaken. Mental strength is not built by avoiding pain. It is built by facing controlled difficulty repeatedly. Without that, the mind loses its edge. Part 3. The illusion of safety. The weak world promises safety. No discomfort, no failure, no judgment, no risk. But real safety does not come from avoiding life. It comes from knowing you can handle it. When you never test yourself, you never trust yourself. And without self-trust, anxiety grows. You start fearing situations that once felt normal. You overthink, you hesitate, you wait. This is not weakness of character. It is weakness of training. Part 4. Why mental strength is quiet. Mentally strong people are often misunderstood. They are not loud. They don't complain much. They don't seek attention. They are steady. Mental strength looks like calm under pressure, like patience in uncertainty, like discipline without external reward. It is not dramatic. It is consistent. And because it is quiet, many people underestimate it. Part 5. How language and thought shape. Mental strength. The words you use matter. When you constantly say, "This is too hard," "I can't handle this," "I'm not ready," your mind listens. Language becomes identity. This is why learning English through reflection is powerful. You are not just learning words. You are training clarity, focus, expression. Every time you understand a difficult idea in another language, you strengthen your mental flexibility. Part 6. Why a weak world creates strong distractions. Distraction is everywhere. Noise replaces thought. Entertainment replaces reflection. Scrolling replaces stillness. But mental strength requires silence. Not external silence only. Internal silence. The ability to sit with your thoughts, to feel discomfort without escaping it, to stay present when the mind wants to run. This is becoming rare, and that is why it is powerful. Part 7. How a weak world trains the mind to avoid discomfort. A weak world does not tell you directly to avoid discomfort. It teaches this lesson quietly, every single day. It teaches you that if something feels uncomfortable, you should escape. If something feels boring, you should replace it. If something feels difficult, you should look for an easier way. Over time, this constant avoidance becomes automatic. You stop asking, "What can I learn from this discomfort?" And you start asking, "How can I make this go away?" This is how the mind becomes fragile, because discomfort is not the enemy. Discomfort is feedback. It shows you where growth is possible. It shows you where strength can be built. When discomfort disappears from your life, so does your ability to tolerate pressure. And pressure is part of life. Part 8. Why mental strength is built through resistance, not relief. The human mind grows stronger the same way muscles do. Through resistance, not extreme resistance, not constant suffering, but regular, controlled difficulty. When you face something slightly uncomfortable and stay present, your mind adapts. It learns that discomfort is survivable. It learns that fear does not equal danger. But when relief is immediate and constant, the mind never adapts. This is why people feel overwhelmed by small challenges. Their tolerance has been trained downward. Mental strength is not about becoming cold or emotionless. It is about becoming stable. Part 9. The cost of a life without mental strength. A life without mental strength feels chaotic. You react instead of respond. You avoid instead of confront. You distract instead of reflect. Small problems feel like crises. Criticism feels like rejection. Silence feels uncomfortable. Without mental strength, your inner world is controlled by external events. And that is exhausting. Mental strength gives you space. Space between stimulus and response. Space to choose how you act. Part 10. Why discipline matters more in a weak world. Discipline is often misunderstood. People think discipline is punishment, restriction, force. But discipline is simply self-direction. In a weak world full of distractions, discipline becomes freedom. It allows you to decide what deserves your attention, what deserves your energy, what deserves your time. Without discipline, the world decides for you. And the world does not care about your growth. Part 11. The role of routine in building inner stability. Routine is not boring. It is grounding. A simple daily routine creates structure in a chaotic environment. It tells your mind, there is something stable here. There is something predictable. There is something I can rely on. This stability is the foundation of mental strength. Without it, the mind feels scattered, always reacting, always adjusting. Routine reduces decision fatigue. It conserves mental energy. And that energy can be used for growth. Part 12. Why learning English is a form of mental training. Learning English is not just an academic task. It is mental training. You practice patience when you don't understand everything. You practice focus when listening carefully. You practice humility when you make mistakes. Every moment of confusion is an opportunity to build tolerance. Every repetition strengthens discipline. Every attempt builds confidence. This is why language learning builds more than fluency. It builds resilience. Part 13. The importance of silence in a noisy world. Silence has become rare, not because it disappeared, but because people avoid it. Silence forces you to face your thoughts, your fears, your doubts. But silence is where clarity lives. Mental strength grows when you stop running from yourself, when you can sit quietly without distraction, without escape, without judgment. This ability alone sets you apart in a weak world. Part 14. Why most people confuse mental strength with emotional numbness. Mental strength does not mean you don't feel. It means you don't let feelings control your actions. You still feel fear. You still feel doubt. You still feel discomfort. But you don't obey them automatically. You observe them. You understand them. You move forward anyway. This distinction is critical because suppressing emotions creates tension, but understanding them creates power. Part 15. How small daily choices shape mental strength. Mental strength is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in ordinary ones. Choosing to focus instead of scroll. Choosing to speak instead of stay silent. Choosing to continue instead of quit. These small choices accumulate. And over time, they form identity. You become someone who can handle pressure. Someone who stays calm. Someone who moves forward even when it's uncomfortable. Part 16. How a weak world rewards avoidance. One of the most dangerous aspects of a weak world is that it rewards avoidance. If you avoid discomfort, you are praised for self-care. If you quit when things get hard, you are told to protect your energy. If you escape pressure, you are told you are setting boundaries. And sometimes, those things are necessary. But when avoidance becomes the default response, something important is lost. Growth does not happen in permanent protection. Strength does not grow in constant retreat. A weak world removes the difference between healthy rest and chronic avoidance, and the mind slowly forgets how to endure. Part 17. Why mental strength feels uncomfortable at first. Mental strength feels uncomfortable because it goes against conditioning. Your mind has been trained to seek ease, to minimize effort, to escape tension. So when you choose focus over distraction, it feels heavy. When you choose discipline over comfort, it feels restrictive. When you choose silence over noise, it feels strange. This discomfort does not mean something is wrong. It means something is changing. Mental strength often feels like resistance before it feels like freedom. Part 18. The difference between pain and suffering. A weak world avoids pain at all costs. But pain and suffering are not the same. Pain is unavoidable. Suffering is optional. Pain comes from effort, loss, growth, and challenge. Suffering comes from resistance to reality. Mental strength allows you to accept pain without creating suffering. You stop fighting what is. You stop adding mental stories to every difficulty. You face reality calmly. This ability alone reduces anxiety dramatically. Part 19. Why most people break under pressure. Pressure reveals structure. When pressure increases, weak systems collapse. Strong systems adapt. Most people break under pressure not because they are incapable, but because they were never trained to hold tension. They were taught to escape it. Mental strength is not about eliminating pressure. It is about becoming stable inside it. Part 20. How a strong mind processes failure. Failure destroys fragile minds, but it informs strong ones. A mentally strong person does not personalize failure. They analyze it. They don't ask, "What does this say about me?" They ask, "What does this teach me?" This shift protects identity. It keeps the ego flexible, and it allows continuous improvement. In a weak world, failure is avoided. In a strong mind, failure is data. Part 21. The role of self-respect in mental strength. Mental strength and self-respect are deeply connected. Every time you do what you said you would do, self-respect grows. Every time you avoid what you know you should face, self-respect weakens. This is why discipline feels empowering over time. It rebuilds trust with yourself. And without self-respect, mental strength cannot exist. Part 22. Why social media amplifies mental weakness. Social media constantly pulls your attention outward. Comparison replaces reflection. Validation replaces self-trust. Noise replaces clarity. A weak world thrives on distraction. Mental strength requires the opposite. It requires inward focus, long attention spans, independent thinking. This is becoming rare, and that rarity makes it powerful. Part 23. How stillness builds inner authority. Stillness is not passivity. It is control. When you can remain still internally, even when emotions rise, you develop inner authority. You stop being ruled by impulses. You stop reacting automatically. You choose consciously. This is one of the highest forms of mental strength. Part 24. Why strong minds move slower, but go further. Weak minds rush. Strong minds pace themselves. They understand that consistency beats intensity, that patience beats urgency, that direction beats speed. A weak world celebrates quick results. Mental strength values long-term stability, and that difference determines outcomes. Part 25. How daily discipline builds unbreakable mental strength. Mental strength is not built in moments of inspiration. It is built in ordinary days. It is built when you show up even when you don't feel like it, when you keep a promise to yourself, when you stay focused while the world pulls you in every direction. Daily discipline removes chaos from the mind. You stop asking how you feel. You start acting based on who you want to become. And over time, this consistency creates stability. Stability creates confidence. Confidence creates calm. This is how mental strength becomes unbreakable. Part 26. Why a strong mind does not need a strong world. A strong mind does not depend on external conditions. It does not need perfect circumstances. It does not need constant motivation. It does not need approval. It creates its own structure. When the world is weak, unstable, and distracted, a strong mind becomes an anchor, not just for yourself, but for others around you. Part 27. The quiet transformation. Mental strength does not announce itself. There is no dramatic moment, no sudden change. There is just a quiet shift. You react less. You focus more. You move with intention. And one day, you realize something important. Life feels lighter, not because it is easier, but because you are stronger. Part 28. The final truth about mental strength in a weak world. A weak world will always exist. There will always be distractions. There will always be comfort. There will always be excuses. Mental strength is not about fighting the world. It is about not becoming it. It is about choosing depth over noise, discipline over impulse, presence over escape. And that choice, repeated daily, changes everything. If this story helped you reflect and practice your English at the same time, thank you for being here. This channel was created to help you improve your English listening and speaking skills through calm, deep, and meaningful storytelling. If you want to keep building your English fluency while strengthening your mind, consider subscribing to English Rise. See you in the next story.